G'day, Shah here once again. This week we're asking the question hard shell versus soft shell storage. We're comparing the Pelican 55 litre hard shell here versus the Unplug Ultimate Adventure 65 litre bag. Is there a clear winner between the two, or is it just up to your preference? Let's get 4 wheels on the road and find out. So we're just taking a look now at a comparison head-to-head size-wise between the two options. For your hard case here, this is the Pelican case. This is 610 by 310 by 310 high, and the Unplug 65 litre, whereas this is about 55 litres by the time you factor in all of the hard case material. This is 58 centimetres wide, 36 and 32. So comparing them apples to apples, they're around about the same size. Which brings us into the first thing that is a big point of difference between the two that I'd like to look at, and that is with the Unplug, you can actually change the size of it to whatever size you like. The Pelican here is only rated to be water resistant for the seals that are in the lid, and air resistant as well. The Unplug is only rated to be water resistant and air resistant as well. You can actually seal the bag on the sides here. If you'd like to have a look at how that process actually works and how to best do it, I'll put the link in the top right hand side of your screen to a video that you can have a look at where we've done that previously. So we'll just take a look now at loading them both up and immersing them and see how they perform. When talking pros and cons for a hard case as opposed to a soft case, one of the big points here is probably that you can load up the hard case with quite a bit of weight and it'll still float. There's probably about maybe 20 kilos of rocks in there. So yep, that's still floating. Piece of cake. So for the sake of speeding things up a little, I've taken all the weight that I had in the Pelican case here and I've put it in the bottom of the Unplugged because it takes a minute to seal it up. Oh, there you go. Interesting. Floats as well. Floats about the same. So in terms of comparing between the two, we've had quite an interesting outcome. The Pelican hard case and the Unplug float pretty much the same, which is quite interesting, seeing one's a hard shell and one's a soft. Quite interesting. Alright, well let's take a little bit more of a look at a couple of other comparisons. Alright, so can we kill the unkillable bag? What I've done is I've loaded this up with about 20 kilos of rocks. I've float tested it previously and it actually floats, so what I'm going to have to do is hold it underwater. I can't get a hold of enough rocks right now or enough big heavy stuff to put in it to sink it. So we're just going to immerse it now for a couple of minutes and see how it holds up. Well, we've had it underwater for a couple of minutes now. Let's open it up and see how it fared. So most of the rocks that I've got at the bottom are dry. This one here is a little bit wet. So that was a very, very extreme example though. I basically stood on it and held it underwater for 2 minutes to see how it went. And to be honest, I probably could have done a bit better of a job sealing it up, but you get the general idea of what we're trying to test for anyway. So we're just trying to test how waterproof it is. You know, 9 times out of 10 you're just going to be sitting with the bag in the rain or on the roof of your truck, and in a case like that with all the seams folded under, as you would have seen in our previous video, the seams are all folded under here, so there's absolutely no way for the water to permeate through into the bag. Where the water did permeate through into the bag was on the corner of the zip here. That was at the only place, and with zippers you're always going to have that scenario anyway. While it is tucked under, if you're forcing it underwater and there is some air in there, you're going to get some water go in place of the air no matter what happens. But it's a pretty good example of what it does and how waterproof it is for what you're going to be using it for most of the time at any rate. So what we're trying to test for with both of these options is everyday yet somewhat extreme scenarios. You would have seen with the Unplug bag before, when we totally immersed it, some water did get in. With this one, the same thing will happen. I'm about to do that now and we'll take a look at the results. Alright, so what I'm going to do now is hold this underwater, and a similar thing's going to happen as it did with the Softshell bag. I'll hear air coming out, which will be water going in. So it's going to be much the same scenario, but for the purposes of checking it out. Where the air is coming out, I can see is the hinges here. But that's enough of a general idea, so we'll take a look at how much water we've got inside of that now. Alright, so let's pull it open and take a look. And look at that. Oh wow, there is a lot more than I thought. Probably about half a litre of water in there, which is quite an interesting turn up. Didn't think I heard that much coming in. It must have been coming in through this seal here, and it didn't even seem like it was coming in at a great rate of knots. So with the Unplug we had probably about, I don't know, 20 mil came in, and with this we got about half a litre, and I held this underwater for a lot less time than I did with the Unplug. So interesting outcome. So it's a somewhat unrealistic example, but just something to think about anyway. If you're looking at a hard case like this, air coming up on it, it's going to be really bad for your aerodynamics, really bad for your fuel economy, and sometimes the case may only be half full. And if you're looking at soft bags like these for storage, you can squash them down, and if they're tied down, which they aren't in this case because I've got solar panel covers where my roof racks usually are, you can squash them down as much as you want to. Even if they're full, usually you put them full of soft gear that you can squish down anyway, so works out a lot better I think in this case with the soft bags. But I mean, it's a case by case basis, so whatever suits you and whatever suits the application you want it for. So when making comparisons, I've got to ask the obvious questions to begin with. hArDhSHeLL, what's something like that going to be used for? If you're really in a situation where it's going to be getting constant impacts, say if you've got it on the roof of a truck and you're driving through a lot of brush or a lot of bushes, stuff like that, then a hArDhSHeLL might be something that suits your needs. But if you're looking for something that's a little bit more able to be compacted or a little bit more slimline on your roof, then perhaps a Softshell might be an option for you. So in a direct comparison security wise between the two, on the latches with the Pelican case here, you do have right here a hole that a padlock can go through on both of the latches, so it may be a little bit more secure. So if you're looking for something that most definitely needs to be locked up, if it's storage for the top of your car, something like that, then this may be the go for you. But with security with a Softshell base like this, obviously you can just cut through it if you really need to, but you can put a padlock through the zippers here, so it might be a slight deterrent. Again, with a lot of the questions between these two items, it's a case by case basis, so what suits you on one thing may not suit you on another thing, but that's what we're here to take a look at today. The next thing I wanted to take a look at here is a point that is not often thought about, and that's portability. So if you've got to pick this thing up and move it somewhere, how are you going to do it? So with the Pelican hard case here, you've only got this one option here, which is the handle on top. No handles on the side, and you can obviously carry it as you normally would. but it's a little bit limited. So if we take a look and compare now with the Unplug, if you'd like to check a review that I've done on this bag previously, I'll put a link for you on the top right hand side of your screen. But in short, there's a few different ways that you can lug this thing around. So you've got backpack straps on the top here. They actually conveniently velcro in so that they're not in your way in general use, or you can take them off entirely, very easy to do. The other thing as well you have is grab handles on the top, which is super handy, very similar to the hard case, but also you've got handles on either end of the bag as well, so that makes it really easy to carry around the place, and you've got multiple options to do so. So if something like multiple ways to carry the bag is something that's a consideration for you, then this may be the answer. Alright, let's take a look at a few more things. The next thing I wanted to take a quick look at, which ties into another point afterwards, is if one of these storage solutions happens to take a tumble. So if you've lost this off the roof and there's loose things inside, there's facility for it to all bounce around. So if you've got any breakables at all in there, they won't be faring well. The other thing that you really should consider with something that's a hard shell as well is that you've got breakable parts. So you've got latches on the front here, and you've also got the two latches on the back, as well as the pop riveted handle on the top. So there's a lot of potential points where this thing could break down if it gets dropped, or if it's exposed to the elements for too long. Whereas with the Unplugged bag, for example, there's no breakable parts at all. And as we mentioned previously, you can break this down to a lot smaller than it actually is. The 65 litre can go down to 30, 40, 50 litres, whatever you want it to be. You can just air seal it down, and if it takes a tumble off something, then there's less room for things to be bouncing around and less potential for things to be breaking. Alright, well, that's going to wrap things up for us today with our comparison of the Pelican hArDhSHeLL and the Unplug Ultimate Outdoor Adventure Bag. Don't forget, if you wanted to purchase the Unplug Ultimate Outdoor Adventure Bag, I've got Amazon affiliate links in the description down below. If you could follow those, it'd be really helpful to the channel and to myself. And don't forget, if you enjoyed this video, to like, comment, subscribe, and most importantly share. I really do appreciate it. And we'll see you next time we get 4 wheels on the road.